The morning sunlight filtered through the cream-colored curtains, casting a gentle glow across the tidy living room. Julia Carter stood at the kitchen counter in her pale blue robe, pouring orange juice into a small cup. The scent of pancakes lingered in the air, mingled with the faint smell of antiseptic from the medicine she had just given her mother-in-law. Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. If you love dramatic, emotional, and powerful stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Now, let's dive into today's story. Mommy, are we having pancakes again? Asked Lily, her 5-year-old daughter, as she padded into the room, clutching her bunny plushie. Julia smiled, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear. Yes, sweetie, just how you like them. Extra syrup, no butter. Lily grinned, climbing up to her booster seat at the kitchen table. Julia placed the plate in front of her and turned to pour coffee. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. No new transfers. It was the 5th of the month, and Ryan hadn't sent the money. Again, 5 years ago, things were different. Julia was a rising financial analyst at a Manhattan firm. She was sharp, respected, and known for her uncanny ability to forecast market shifts. That's when she met Ryan Carter, tall, confident, freshly promoted to executive director at a logistics company. Their chemistry was instant, their love whirlwind. 3 months into their relationship, Ryan took her to a Camelot dinner and said words she still remembered. Quit your job, Jules. Be with me. I'll make enough for both of us. I want a family, not just a house. Let me give you that. Julia hesitated. She loved her job, but Ryan was persuasive, gentle at first, then persistent. He spoke of legacy, tradition, and raising kids with a present mother. And when Diana Carter, Ryan's ailing mother, suffered a stroke, the pressure doubled. She needs full-time care, Ryan had said. I can't trust a nurse, but I trust you. He promised to deposit his full salary into a joint account. You'll manage the home. I'll bring the money in. We'll be partners. It sounded perfect. Julia gave her 2 weeks' notice. That was the last time she set foot in a boardroom. The first year was manageable. Ryan deposited his salary like clockwork, and though caring for Diana, who was wheelchair-bound and emotionally volatile, was exhausting, Julia believed in the role she had chosen. But by year 3, the cracks began to show. The joint account? Closed. The salary? Now routed into Ryan's personal account. The promised transparency? Gone. Julia now had to ask, no, beg, for a monthly transfer. At first, she received $4,000, then $3,000. Eventually, it dwindled to $1,500 every single month. That morning, as Julia stirred her coffee and stared at her phone, anxiety crawled under her skin. Diana called from the hallway, her voice sharp. Did you change my bedding like I asked? I did, Mrs. Carter, Julia replied automatically. It smells like bleach. I used the hypoallergenic detergent, just like last week. A pause, then a scoff. Julia exhaled quietly. She didn't argue anymore. After breakfast, she loaded the dishwasher, took Lily to preschool, then returned to prep Diana's lunch. As she chopped carrots, the silence in the house wrapped around her like a vice. She checked her phone again. Still nothing. A memory floated up. Ryan, in his tailored gray suit, brushing a kiss across her cheek. I just want what's best for us, Jules. Trust me. How far they had drifted. Lately, even Ryan's compliments turned to criticism. Why don't you take better care of yourself? You used to look polished. Now you look tired. Sophie always wears heels to the office. You could learn a thing or two. Sophie. Julia knew the name too well. Ryan's assistant. 27. Always impeccably dressed. Julia had met her once, at Ryan's company gala 3 years ago. Sophie had smiled too wide and lingered too long beside Ryan's arm. Julia tried to ignore it. But the messages, the hushed calls, the late-night work emergencies, they added up. At 11:42 a.m., Julia finally texted him. Hey, it's the 5th. I need the transfer to cover groceries and Lily's school fees. Let me know, okay? No reply. By 2 p.m., she sent a second message. Ryan, please. I have bills due. At least tell me when you'll send it. At 3:17 p.m., a reply came. I'm in meetings. Stop nagging. I'll send it when I can. No apology. No confirmation. Just cold dismissal. That evening, Ryan came home around 7:30. He didn't greet Julia, just gave a perfunctory kiss to Lily and went straight to his den. Dinner was awkward. Julia served baked chicken and steamed vegetables. Diana barely touched her plate, claiming it was overcooked. Ryan scrolled through his phone the entire time. Did you get my texts? Julia asked softly. Ryan sighed, annoyed. Yes, and I said I'd send it. It's already 5 days late, Ryan. Jesus, Julia. It's always about money with you. Julia clenched her fists beneath the table. Because I have none of my own, I gave that up for this family. Ryan looked up, his expression cold. And now you're acting like I owe you something for that. Diana smirked. Honestly, Ryan, she's always been so entitled. Julia blinked. That word, entitled, made something in her chest twist. She stared at her husband. The man who once brought her flowers just because she wore red lipstick. The man who promised her respect. A life of dignity. Now here he was, treating her like a burden. That night, Julia sat in bed, staring at the ceiling. Lily was asleep beside her, soft snores rising and falling. In the dim light, Julia's phone buzzed. A bank notification, $1,500 received. No note, no apology, just a transaction, like she was some employee paid for labor rendered. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not because of the amount, but because she realized something terrifying. She didn't recognize the man sleeping down the hall. And worse, she didn't recognize herself anymore either. The next morning, the house was still. Julia stood at the kitchen sink, staring out the window at the gray clouds gathering overhead. The coffee in her mug had gone cold in her hands. She hadn't slept the night before. Ryan's words kept echoing in her mind. You act like I owe you something. Her chest tightened at the memory. She glanced at the fridge. It was nearly empty. Half a gallon of milk, 2 eggs, leftover mashed potatoes from the week before. There wasn't enough for dinner, let alone groceries for the weekend. Lily's field trip money was due tomorrow, and her cough hadn't gone away. Julia opened her banking app again. The $1,500 from last night stared back at her like an insult. A reminder of her dependence. Her captivity. She used to sign deals worth millions. Now she had to calculate whether she could afford a pack of antibiotics. She texted Ryan again. We need to talk. The money isn't enough anymore. Groceries, Lily's school, your mom's meds. I am struggling. This time, no response. At noon, Diana called from her room. I am hungry. Bring me lunch. Julia brought a tray with soup and bread. As she placed it on the nightstand, Diana eyed her with disdain. You look tired. You should put on some makeup before Ryan gets home. Julia bit the inside of her cheek. I haven't had time. That's the problem. Always a mess. No wonder Ryan stays late. Julia froze. Her throat tightened. He works hard to keep this house running. The least you could do is make yourself presentable. Julia stood silently, then turned and left the room. The soup remained untouched. That afternoon, she picked Lily up from preschool. The teacher pulled her aside. Julia, just a reminder, tomorrow is the field trip to the zoo. We'll need the $25 by morning. Julia nodded, her face burning. Of course, I'll have it. But she wouldn't. Not unless she sacrificed dinner. Lily chattered in the back seat on the way home, completely unaware of her mother's turmoil. Mommy, can I get a chocolate cupcake tomorrow? Like Bella had for her birthday. Julia swallowed hard. Maybe, sweetheart. We'll see. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. You said that last week, too. Julia's hands gripped the wheel tighter. Back home, she sent another text to Ryan. This time she tried a different tone. Ryan, Lily's field trip is tomorrow. I don't have enough for her lunch or her ticket. Please, can you send another $100? It would mean a lot to her. No reply. She waited. An hour. Then 2. Dinner time came. Ryan wasn't home. She called him. Voicemail. She tried again. And again. Finally, just past 8 p.m., the phone rang. Ryan. She answered immediately. Thank God. Ryan, Julia, what the hell? I'm in the middle of dinner with clients. I've been trying to reach you all day. Lily has her field trip, and I need. You need. That's all I ever hear from you. It's $100. I'm not asking for a yacht. You don't understand how tight things are right now. Julia laughed bitterly. You just bought a new Rolex last month. There was a pause. Then Ryan's voice turned cold. Don't you dare talk to me like that. I work my ass off while you sit in that house, doing God knows what. God knows what. I care for your sick mother, raise our child, and beg you like a maid for food money. Don't be dramatic. I'll send it later. Stop harassing me. Click. He hung up. Julia stared at her phone, her hand trembling. Lily came in, dragging her bunny plushie. Mommy? Are you okay? Julia blinked back tears and forced a smile. Just tired, honey. Let's brush your teeth. After Lily went to bed, Julia sat on the edge of her own mattress, staring at the ceiling. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten. She couldn't afford to. A knock came at the door. Diana's voice followed. Is the laundry done? My nightgown smells. Julia didn't answer. I asked you a question. It's in the dryer, Julia said flatly. Then take it out. I'm not your maid. There was a pause. Then Diana hissed. You're certainly not a wife either. Just a leech in my house. Later that night, as Julia sat scrolling through her old LinkedIn messages, rereading notes from her former colleagues who had no idea she'd disappeared into domestic anonymity, her phone buzzed. A transfer notification. $50. No message. Just $50. Her hands clenched around the phone. She opened her texts, typed furiously. Do you think I'm begging because I want a Chanel bag? This is about your daughter. Your mother. The life you promised. Then she deleted the message before sending it. Instead, she wrote, Thank you for the $50. It'll help. The next morning, Julia gave Lily the field trip form and exact change. No cupcake. No extra snacks. Just a lunchbox with a peanut butter sandwich and an apple. Lily hugged her goodbye. You're the best, Mommy. Julia smiled, forcing back tears. I love you so much. After Lily left, Julia went to the bathroom, locked the door, and slid to the floor. She looked at herself in the mirror. Sunken eyes, messy hair, faded robe. This wasn't her. Not the Julia Carter who once stood before boardroom tables and pitched million-dollar strategies. Not the woman who had dreams. She was someone else now. Someone who had to beg for permission to feed her child. Outside, thunder rumbled. A storm was coming. And Julia, finally, was starting to feel the stirrings of something stronger than fear. Anger. Julia sat on the living room couch, folding Lily's tiny socks into neat pairs. The room was silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. The faint scent of lavender fabric softener clung to her hands, but nothing could wash away the tension that had seeped into every fiber of her being. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message, but not from Ryan. It was from Laura, her old colleague from the financial firm. Just saw Sophie Green at that rooftop bar downtown, with a man who looked like your husband. Hope I'm wrong, Jules. Julia's fingers froze mid-fold. She stared at the message, heart pounding. Sophie Green. The name had hovered like a shadow in her home for months now. Ryan mentioned her often, always in praise. She's efficient. She knows how to present herself. You could learn from her. Julia had brushed it off. Until now. She tapped on the image attachment that came with the message. A photo. Blurry, taken from a distance, but clear enough. Sophie, in a red dress, head thrown back in laughter. Beside her, unmistakably, Ryan, leaning in far too close. His hand was on her lower back. Julia's vision swam. The next morning, she didn't mention the photo. Not to Ryan, not even to herself. Instead, she cleaned the kitchen obsessively, scrubbing already clean surfaces until her knuckles turned raw. She needed something to control, anything. Ryan came home late that night, cologne lingering on his jacket, hair neatly styled. Not a single wrinkle on his shirt. Working late again? She asked, keeping her tone even. He didn't look up. Yeah, Sophie and I had to meet a vendor. Took longer than expected. Julia forced a smile. Did she enjoy the rooftop view? Ryan paused mid-step. What? Nothing, she replied, turning away. The next day, while Ryan was at work and Lily at school, Julia opened Ryan's laptop. She hesitated. She wasn't the type to snoop. But something had shifted inside her, like a lock finally clicked open. The password was easy, Lily 2018. His emails loaded quickly. She scrolled. and found them. Hundreds of emails. Some professional. Most not. You looked incredible last night. I can't stop thinking about that dress. I wish I were coming home to you instead. Julia's throat closed up. She clicked on an attachment. A photo of Sophie in a black nightgown, smiling coyly into the mirror. And beneath it, one day, we won't have to hide anymore. Julia dropped the laptop as if it burned her. Her stomach churned. Rage, betrayal, humiliation, it all surged at once. She stumbled into the bathroom and threw up. Later that evening, Ryan returned home, whistling. He dropped his keys on the counter, loosened his tie, and gave her a cursory glance. Dinner ready? Julia stared at him, numb. It's in the oven. He sat down, scrolled through his phone. Diana called from her room. Julia, my feet are cold. Julia didn't move. Ryan glanced up. Didn't you hear her? I heard, Julia said. I'm not a nurse. Ryan narrowed his eyes. What's gotten into you lately? Asked Sophie, Julia said. A long pause. Excuse me. She met his eyes, steady now. You heard me. Ryan slammed his phone on the table. You're snooping through my stuff now? How dare you? How dare I? Julia's voice was sharp. You humiliate me. Under this roof, while I take care of your mother, your child, your house, and I have to beg you for grocery money like I'm a stray dog? You're being emotional. You're being unfaithful. Diana's voice echoed from the hallway. Ryan, what's going on out there? Julia stood tall. Why don't you tell her? Or better yet, tell Lily. Why Daddy comes home smelling like perfume that doesn't belong to Mommy. Ryan's face darkened. Don't drag Lily into this. I didn't. You did. The moment you decided Sophie was worth more than the family you built. He scoffed. Oh, please. Don't act like you're some victim. You gave up your job. Your choice. Because you asked me to, and you liked it. Until it got inconvenient. No, Julia whispered. I like being a mother. I like believing my marriage was built on respect. But I don't like being treated like a bill you're forced to pay. Ryan stormed out of the house that night. Julia didn't follow. Instead, she poured herself a glass of water, walked to Lily's room, and sat beside her. The little girl stirred. Mommy, chill. It's okay, baby. I'm here. Did Daddy leave again? Julia kissed her forehead. Sometimes people leave when they don't know how to be brave. Are you brave? Julia's eyes welled up. I'm learning. The next morning, Julia opened a private email account and typed a message to her former boss. Danielle, I hope this doesn't come as a surprise, but I'm looking to return to work. Are you still hiring? She hit send. Then, for the first time in years, she stood in front of the mirror, applied light makeup, and brushed her hair like she used to. Not for Ryan, but for herself. Something had changed. She wasn't just angry anymore. She was ready. Rain pounded against the windows of the Carter home, a relentless rhythm echoing the storm inside Julia's chest. She sat silently at the dining table, staring at the untouched dinner. Roasted chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes. Ryan hadn't come home the night before, or the night before that. Diana, wheeled into the room in her bathrobe, looked at the food with a frown. Cold again. You expect me to eat this? Julia didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. Diana narrowed her eyes. You've changed. Julia finally looked at her. Yes, I have. Don't forget who owns this house. Julia stood slowly. This house was built on my silence, on my free labor, and I'm done giving both. Diana's mouth fell open, stunned. That evening, Ryan returned home, hair damp, eyes bloodshot. He smelled of liquor and expensive cologne. He tossed his keys on the counter and dropped into a chair like nothing had happened. Where's Lily? Asleep? Julia said, without looking up. You didn't text me today. You didn't deserve it. He scoffed. Still playing the victim? Still pretending to be a husband? Oh, come on, Julia. Don't get all righteous. You knew this marriage wasn't perfect. No marriage is. But I didn't think I was sleeping beside a stranger. He leaned back, arms crossed. Let's just skip this. What do you want? Julia blinked. Excuse me? I know how this goes. You found the emails. You probably have screenshots. So tell me, what's your price to keep quiet? The room went still. You think this is about money? She whispered. Isn't it always? Julia stepped forward. You reduced me to a salary. You put a price tag on my dignity. You give me $1,500 a month, as if I'm a burden to be tolerated. And now, after cheating, you ask what it'll cost you to shut me up. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. Julia. No, Ryan. You don't get to explain. You don't get to twist this. 4 or 5 years, I've scrubbed floors, bathed your mother, raised your daughter, sacrificed my career, while you dined with your mistress and judged me for not wearing high heels. She paused, breathing hard. I'm done. I want a divorce. Ryan stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. You're being dramatic. I'm being free. And how will you survive, Julia? You've been out of work for years. You'll crawl back for that $1,500 before the month ends. She smiled coldly. I already have an interview. Monday. His face twitched. You think some office job is going to support you and Lily? No, but it will support me. And that's enough to never need you again. Just then, Lily's small voice came from the hallway. Mommy? Daddy? Julia turned to see her daughter standing in her pajamas, hair messy, eyes wide. Why are you yelling? Ryan took a step forward. Hey, sweetheart. Daddy was just. But Lily stepped behind Julia, gripping her hand. Mommy, are we leaving Daddy? Julia knelt down, tears in her eyes. Would you be okay with that? Lily looked up. Innocent. Brave. I just want Mommy to be happy again. Julia closed her eyes, holding her daughter close. The next morning, Julia packed a suitcase. Clothes for herself, Lily's favorite toys, important documents. She called a friend who offered her a guest room. When Ryan woke up, she was at the door with her coat on and her daughter by her side. You're really doing this? He asked. I already did. What about my mother? She's your mother, Ryan. I took care of her long enough. You think you're better than me now? No, I know I am. As Julia drove away with Lily in the back seat, rain cleared from the windshield, revealing sunlight breaking through. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. For the first time in years, she felt light. That night, Julia sent one final message to Ryan. You wanted to know the price of my silence? It was never $1,500. It was everything I gave you while losing myself. And now you've lost me. 3 months after walking away from the house that had once felt like a gilded cage, Julia Carter sat in a sleek glass-walled conference room in downtown Atlanta. She wore a crisp white blouse, her hair neatly tied back, eyes focused with quiet intensity. She was leading a financial strategy presentation for her first major client since returning to the workforce. No longer the woman hidden behind the kitchen door, Julia had reclaimed her role. Sharp, capable, commanding. If you follow this model, she explained, pointing to the data on the screen, you'll reduce risk exposure by 18% in Q2. I'll have the implementation plan finalized by Friday. The clients nodded, impressed. Even her colleagues, who had once doubted the stay-at-home mom making a comeback, now sat in quiet respect. Julia smiled. And this time, it wasn't a smile weighed down by pain. It was the smile of someone who had emerged from the storm. That evening, she picked Lily up from school. The little girl babbled excitedly from a back seat. Mommy, I read out loud in class today. Everyone clapped. I'm so proud of you, Julia said, kissing her daughter's cheek. They now lived in a small rental apartment, cozy and filled with laughter. Lily had her own corner for reading and drawing, and Julia had turned part of the living room in her home office. No more dinners served under her mother-in-law's watchful scowl. No more waiting for a $1,500 deposit like a beggar at the bank of marriage. One quiet Saturday morning, Julia received a message from an old friend. Ryan's company is under investigation. Sophie leaked client data. Julia opened her laptop. News spread fast. Green and Carter Logistics loses major contracts amid internal scandal. She sighed. Not with satisfaction, just quiet closure. A few days later, Ryan called. The first time since she'd left. Julia. She picked up but said nothing. I know I messed up. Still, she said nothing. Sophie's gone. The company's tanking. I don't even know where to start over. And your mother? Julia asked calmly. I hired a nurse. It's expensive. No one takes care of her like you did. Because I wasn't hired help. Ryan was silent. I'm sorry, Jules. I didn't know you were this strong. The saddest part isn't that you cheated, she said. It's that you put a price tag on me. You thought I was worth exactly $1,500 a month. I didn't. Yes, you did. But I don't need your money anymore. What I needed was respect. Days later, Julia stood in court with her attorney. She didn't ask for much, just full custody of Lily, minimal support, and complete financial freedom. Ryan stared in disbelief. You don't want more? Julia smiled. I want less, as long as it's mine. That evening, Lily asked, Mommy, why didn't you stay with Daddy? Julia gently brushed her daughter's hair. Because I realized you deserve to see me happy. And I can't teach you to love yourself if I don't love myself first. 1 year later, Julia was promoted to Chief Strategy Officer. She bought her first home under her own name. Lily, now in first grade, was thriving. They went to the park every weekend, cooked together every night. And before bed, Julia always said, I'm proud of you. And Lily always replied, I'm proud of you, Mommy. In a world where women are too often measured by account balances and lipstick shades, Julia Carter proved this. No one has the right to put a price on a woman's silence. Because real worth isn't counted in dollars. It's in the strength we take back.